Jason from TechwareLabs here, proving that technology never sleeps. We had the fortune of running into James from Luna, who's going to show us a product that is going to be on the market here soon, a cell phone with an octa-core, 8-core processor. This is the Rox 8?
Rox V8, yes.
V8. The thing that makes this difference is this is going to be made in our backyard here in Tampa. This is James, the CIO of the company. Please tell me a bit more about the phone.
Well, the V8 part is a little bit confusing to some people because it does mean that we finally, in fact, have desktop horsepower in a phone. We've had it in i7 processors from Intel since 2007 or 8. We finally now have that in a phone. And as phones transform and become more your everything, it's really starting to become a requirement that you do have the horsepower to do the things that you need to do on a phone like you may have done with a desktop computer. So it's kind of exciting that we now finally have that capability in a phone. But unlike a lot of the desktop CPUs, this one is actually extremely power efficient. In fact, more so. It's one of the biggest confusion points of the actual V8 horsepower is that yes, it's faster, but it's also more power efficient because the phone has a system inside called Core Pilot that can actually power down all of 7 of the cores to become extremely power efficient while it's waiting to figure out what it's going to do next. So in idle mode, it's really it can really save battery power.
So features that you guys have been used to on the desktop side of things, core parking, which Intel and AMD have been implementing for a while now, has finally come to the cell phone, and really not a moment too soon, because we're talking about a power-hungry device. As everybody knows, your cell phone runs out of juice almost usually before the end of your day.
It's one of the big things, and that's really what we target at Luna, is to say that we need a product that actually gets you to the end of the day.
And we're talking about a full HD screen here, correct?
It's a full 1080p. It's actually an extremely powerful media device because it does have a 13 megapixel camera for the front camera and a 5 megapixel on this side. And once again, with the 8 cores, you could actually, in fact, film video on here, edit on the phone if you wanted to. It really does have the horsepower to do that for probably the first time in the history of smartphones.
And you were telling me that the GPU has H.265 built in.
H.265 is pretty huge. Most people aren't even aware that it exists, and a lot of smartphone makers don't want you to know that it exists because they don't have it in most cases. And basically, as you probably know, if you don't have that codec decompression hardware acceleration in the phone, you're not going to be able to play all the new video that's coming out in the next years to come, for the next 10 years, and that's kind of
what's most impressive to me is you're also talking about a phone that's not going to cost a fortune.
Well, that's really the big trigger for us, is that, and the motivation why we're here today, because we see so much going on right now in the market where we've got phones that are out there that are $500 to $1,000, and it's kind of an anomaly in the global market, actually, in the US, that people are actually still paying this amount of money for phones, and to us it's kind of crazy. I mean, for myself and everybody around me, that it's ridiculous. This phone's actually going to retail at $399.
$399.
Full retail.
And what carrier?
Unlocked, by the way.
An unlocked phone for $399. You told me this has 32 gig worth of storage?
32 gig, and yeah, 2 gig internal and 32 gig of storage, absolutely.
And an 8-core processor. Now, do you want to tell our readers the CPU, GPU combo?
Well, yes, absolutely. It's the 6595 this is the first phone that's being released in the U.S. They've had it in China. From a couple manufacturers, but this is the first time we're bringing it to the United States. So that's the exciting point, is that you actually have a company here in the U.S., not so much like a patriotic duty issue as much as the fact that if you actually have a problem with the phone, you're not sending it,
Correct. So you guys have a U.S.-based manufacturer. You're dealing with a company that actually backs the product. It's in the U.S. At an affordable price with a lot of horsepower. Tell me a bit about the GPU.
We're here, we do care. Important. It's actually a Power of VR6, which is one of the newer ones that's come out, but it competes quite well. The Samsungs have the Adreno, the Qualcomm.
Right.
It's pretty much in the same caliber with those right now. So things like gaming, for instance, and just the general speed of the phone The GPU it accelerates a lot of the things that happen with the CPU, which is also capable of doing 120 hertz for the refresh rate.
Really?
Some of the things that, they're innovating a little bit. Our company actually is sort of driven to have a penchant for innovation.
What I find interesting is this phone has an additional feature that most new phones you're not going to find on the market. They don't have that feature, which is the backside is removable, and this is a dual SIM phone. So you've got an unlocked phone from the market.
We have a few goodies in here. We have dual SIMs, which you can actually have two phone numbers. So in the US, it's great if you want to have a work phone number and your personal phone number.
Right.
If you leave the U.S., it's indispensable because you have your U.S. number and you have whatever
number. And you don't have to buy
going.
a disposable phone when you go overseas. You just pop in a new SIM.
And carry around the two phones,
right.
Which is unbelievably difficult. At the end of the day, you're doing this dance. It's horrible. Don't have to do that anymore.
This is going to become an indispensable phone for businessmen.
Absolutely. It's an incredible phone for business people. It's got high speed. It's got the horsepower, everything that you're going to want. It does have the dual SIMs. It does have a removable battery. Maybe you are power crazy.
Right. And you just want a spare.
You can get a spare battery. You can replace it halfway through the day. If you're a power user and you really do sit on your phone for 8 hours a day, yeah, there's an option for that. You're not going to find that on some of the other brands.
I see a micro SD card slot for expandable storage as well.
I think our initial Rox V8 may or may not have that 100%, but it's definitely something we're going to add on the additional ones. I'm not sure because we're still sort of trying to anticipate whether we have demand for that or not right now, given that a lot of the transition in the space is moving towards cloud storage.
Right.
And we do have LTE speed now, so it's basically a question of you've got 802.11ac gigabit Ethernet when you go home, which is extremely fast, and you have LTE when you're on the road. And there's also some things we're working on right now, since we do have, I can't officially say some of these things, but we do actually have two data connections that could be 110 megabits per second.
Wow.
That may be summed together
for
a total of 220 megabits per second live access to the cloud. So the need for the actual storage on the phone becomes less and less as people are transitioning to cloud. So,
an absolutely extraordinary device, James. Can't wait to test it out, benchmark it, and show you guys what you can look forward to.
Form factor wise too, go ahead and hold that. You can see it's extremely lightweight. Certainly build quality is really important to us. It's something where we want to have a reputation in the U.S. We have partnered with a manufacturer that's going to produce volume as well. In the short term, we're hoping to do at least 250,000 handsets a month, and we're going to grow from there. But I mean, that's something else that we could. Some of the other companies have sort of stuttered on the issue that they didn't. We've spent 18 months bringing this product to market. It's taken us quite a while.
And what carriers are you going to release this initially?
Initially, because it's the GSM for the cards, it'll work with T-Mobile, AT&T, Cricket, and Metro PCS. So it'll be those four initially, and then we may come out with CDMA, but that requires a special relationship for the hardware with if we do Sprint or Verizon later on down the road. So yeah, initially it would have to be those. Kind of the ones that are less expensive. The dollar amount is also something that plays into the unlocked phone right now, and I think right now we're seeing T-Mobile's pushing plans that are out there for $40 to $70 in that range. You can now get an unlocked phone, and we're talking to a lot of people that have over $100 a month phone bills, and that really needs to end. I mean, you just buy the phone and have a nice data plan. And
if I remember our conversation correctly, you're expecting that this will eventually roll out with Lollipop 5.0, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I think March is when we're going to start mass shipping the product, and I think by then, we're hearing probably 2 months. It does take a little bit of time for them to get some of the details worked out. But I think, yeah, initially we had said we have to stick with what we know is 100%. So,
right.
So we did say Kit Kat initially, but I think it's probably going to roll out with Lollipop.
This is already running 442.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with 442. In fact, Lollipop for some people is going to take it's actually a support issue more than anything else, because Lollipop's a little bit different. I've been running it on another phone that's. So it's also a very good OS and a little bit faster, I think. So we're hoping that that'll go with the faster CPU in it.
And for those of you that are curious, this is a working functional phone right now. This is how close we are to a product on the market. This works. So,
Yeah, the only bad news is that Indiegogo is ending on Wednesday, so I'm hoping you're going to see this before then if you were trying to get in on the early bird deal. But
well,
if
we're
not,
going to have this live
$3.99
pretty
still a good price, but
Tell them where they can go and what they should look up.
the best spot to go right now is to the lunahq.com website, and whatever the special deal is that we've got for at any given time is always going to be on there. Right now, that'll take you to the Indiegogo site for the $2.99 deal if you want to get one of the basic ones. There is a couple different bundles that we have on there. One of the reasons why we have two bundles is because this is actually a Qi charger phone.
Oh, so it's
Qi
QI enabled.
QI,
Very cool.
exactly. Yeah,
so
if you see
again,
QI,
another
means
feature
Qi.
that you have wireless charging compatibility.
So yeah, basically you don't have to plug in cables anymore.
Correct.
It's the end of it. The new system that they're going to have on all the phones is going to be so you can just set it down and it charges without having to plug it in. It's really a convenience feature.
So again, if people want to know more about this, where do they go?
LunaHQ.com, LunaHQ, and it's Luna Mobile, and the phone's called the Rox V8, R-O-X. Luna
This has
Rox.
been a first look at an 8-core CPU phone available in the U.S., made in the U.S. Can't wait to test it out. Stay tuned to TechwareLabs
and you shall.
for full benchmarking and test results.